Okay? So
Everyone looks at me.
so the idea is that when we go into a therapy session with a client or a patient, what happens is that that's a narrative, that's a story, just like a textbook. So I cannot ask my client to stand by it and say that's the only way to see the world. I will look for thousands of different ways to interpret what he just told me. And we'll find the one that is preferred by him. Not me, him. You see, according to deconstruction and the new methods of psychology, and in comparison to what the social workers are doing right now, we can take it down to the simple understanding of who the hero is when social crises take place.
What if they make up a story though and they're lying to tell you a story that they're hiding the truth within?
That's incompetent people. Shouldn't be working as social workers. Because you see, the real heroes are what's going on, no matter how bad things are. There's never the social worker because he decided the right path for my client. It never is the psychologist who decided to take and be directive with the patient to go somewhere.
But how can someone tell the difference when someone is lying to them, like a child that's been abused all their life and they know how to manipulate and they know how the system works to be narcissistic, and how can a social worker recognize that this child is lying to them or not? Because some children can be very believable in their tales.
They are not trained to spot that.
Mm-hmm.
They probably were trained but never picked it up. Because the first thing that strikes somebody who works with children is that when a kid lies, it's because that's only the way he would like the world to be.
Well, it's in their guidelines. There's they've got a list of what social workers can and can't do while interviewing a child, and what they're supposed to, if the child lies to them, then maybe it's because the child doesn't know what truth is, and all this ridiculous stuff. And so in the case if a child lies, they're allowed to use leading questions. Does that make sense?
No, it doesn't.
It's ridiculous.
We just said sometimes a child would lie because he just wants the world to be that way. The social worker's role is to spot that and be able to say, okay, this is how a child would like the world to be. Period. When a grown-up lies, it's a very different story. We all know what's happening. It's a different story. But when a child does it, it's because he probably wants the world to be that way. So,
What about people who have no conscience and they can just be so convincing in causing trouble on other people?
They're called psychopaths.
they're psychopaths.
But how do they recognize that? Because
By the degree on social work on the wall.
by the degree of social work on the wall?
Gee, I've never seen a degree on a social worker.
That's the other thing, by the way.
No, social workers will.
Social workers are supposed to be like, they're making that really hardcore decisions on people's lives that could probably turn somebody's life around. It might even kill them.
Mm-hmm.
They're not even required to have a malpractice insurance policy on them.
Because they're not responsible. I can't remember if I was reading it in a law or a regulation or whatever, policy of some sort. Social workers are never personally held responsible if they make an error in judgment and the wrong thing happens.
Or
They
lie.
hold no responsibility at all. Whereas they're a professional dealing with our most precious people.
Absolutely.
Resources.
Our
Well,
most precious people,
yeah.
and we slack off. We don't, just screw the laws. Just do whatever you want.
So-
You don't have to pay attention to freedom of information law. You don't have to pay attention to anything, and you won't be held responsible if anything happens to my child. Oh my God! Like, what
So
are you
they're
thinking?
given, from what you just said now, they're given a blank check, a green light,
Godlike
to lie
powers.
like a sidewalk on behalf of your child.
Yeah.
There's something wrong here.
And
right?
our children are
Completely.
the statistics that are building up. I'm watching my kids, my daughter being sexually assaulted in an unapproved foster home, getting pregnant in foster care. What is the next statistic category that my children are going to fall into? Is it going to be the suicide one, the drug addicted one, the alcoholism? What?
The wife beater.
The depression, the having to be on Ritalin? I read through the stats and I just, I picture my kids' faces. Oh my God. That's
why
what
you
that's
have
what they're at
anxiety.
risk for. Well, the anxiety stemming from just being away from them in general,
Yeah.
and just, you know, yeah.
I think social service is the best example that we can show in society right now, where we have moved from meritocracy. In other words, you get promoted and you get treated in a certain way according to your merit. We've gone from meritocracy into mediocrity. It's the only way to put it, really.
Oh yeah.
Because these
Yeah.
guys are getting away with a lot of stuff.
Well, it's just like the old saying, not the right people go into politics, just the ones that end up there, you know.